Hi, I'm your host, Erica Polsinelli, and welcome to Evolve by Erica, the podcast, where we talk all things spirituality, ascension, health, wellness, and beyond. I'm so excited that you are here. Come on in. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to have Rachelle on today. We are talking all things herbalism. She is so brilliant in what she does. You can tell it's just such a divine expression of her and her soul. And I'm so excited to go there with you and with her. So I hope you enjoy. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be in your presence. You're like glowing and radiant on this cloudy day that we have in New York.
It might be the mist from the rain.
No. Your outfit, your hair, everything, your radiance within. Thanks. Thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I'm Rachelle Robinett, a registered herbalist and the founder of Pharmacon Supernatural, which is an ecosystem at this point dedicated to teaching people how to be healthier with plants. So most people know me as an herbalist. That's very holistic and very nuanced when you get into it.
Yeah. How did you get started on this journey?
Well, it really has been kind of coming into my truest self and coming into, who I seem intended to be in this life, in the sense that, I grew up on a farm. I grew up in a home, in two homes that were very aware of health and nutrition and nature and medicine and all of these things that have, built, they being exposed to that built a foundation for me. Mm-hmm. But I wanted nothing to do with that from a career standpoint. So I moved to New York. I worked in fashion in this building, which is,
oh my gosh,
it's crazy. I haven't been back. That's and so the doorman and I recognized each other.
No way.
it's so surreal.
I can tell the fashion back for sure.
It's so surreal to be back.
Wow.
Like the same commute. It's wild. But anyway, so I have this foundation, these roots, this old relationship with nature, and this lifelong, passion. It's stronger than a passion. It's really just a complete commitment to understanding the human experience, understanding how what we take in through our senses affects our experience of reality, our life, our being. And long story short, after sort of studying that and pursuing that personally, my whole life, there was a moment that where my career shifted, and I decided to leave fashion, leave the agency world, come out of the closet as this. Mm-hmm. And that grew into Supernatural, and that is, how I spend my time now and the work that I'm doing. So I also have, education as an herbalist and education in complementary and integrative health and all of these kinds of stamps of approval and, structured support systems for what I'm going to teach or what I'm going to do in sessions with clients or what I'm going to write about or, work on with a company. But the heart of it is something that is much more inherent and innate to who I am than that it was that I decided, I'm going to be an herbalist now. Yeah. I'm going to go to school for that.
Yeah. Wow. How long were you in fashion?
Let's see. I'm terrible with time.
Me too. Sorry to ask you that.
I'm like,
yeah.
Was it
time doesn't even exist.
6 years, 8 years?
How was that transition? I was an elementary school teacher.
Oh, wow.
And I left to come out of the spiritual closet.
Yeah.
And share meditation and breath work and all the things that I share now.
Yeah.
It was a hard transition for me. So I'm just wondering how that transition was for you.
Oh, I'm curious. It was challenging in the sense that it was a lot of work, but that was where I was at that time. I mean, I came here to work in fashion. Mm-hmm. I had to start my life over. I knew that it was going to be about hustle and grind for a long time. It was like, I have to, find a place to live. I have to find a career. I have to make it in fashion. I have to do all of these things. And then I left that to start over again. And so I was like, I'm committed to building a new thing So it was a lot of work, but I was never resentful of that, like really just committed to it. And then it was easier than not in the sense that I was becoming more myself, So like I used to be so nervous to give presentations. When I was at the agency, you'd have to present to these clients and I would prepare and I would just be so nervous. And then when I started working as an herbalist, I would be teaching, larger and larger groups. And I was like, I'm not nervous. I'm excited. And it was a foreign, experience, but it was like, oh, that's because you're not pretending to know anything, not pretending to be anybody. You're talking about stuff that you're obsessed with and you love and you want to share. And so in that sense, it was easier. It's been a lot of work, but again, I don't mind that.
I relate to that so much because when I first became an elementary school teacher, it was not easy for me. It was really hard for me. I had to prepare so much. I couldn't figure out the classroom management of it. And then when I started to teach this, it's like all intuitive, zero preparation, and just like an expression moving through me. So I relate to that. And that's because it's our dharma. We're following our dharma and our life's purpose. And gratefully, it comes easy and naturally. And I think when we find that thing that's right for us, it can be that. And sometimes I hear a lot like it shouldn't be that easy or it can't be that easy from other people and what they're going through. I'm like, no, but it can. It actually can. And I think once we understand that and we lean into that, we create so much more space for life to feel a lot easier, for work to feel a lot easier and more like a flow.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's the work of like breaking down the habits of being the way that we were in the past, or there's all of that sort of challenge, but it's a different kind of challenge than the opportunity and the pleasure and the flow, like you said, of being yourself and doing what is right for you to do, here and now. So yeah.
And did you immediately feel that connection back to your roots once you said yes to this, once you left fashion and made that transition?
I would say, I think so. Let's see. I mean, I was, on the weekends and the evenings, like I would leave here. I would leave this
literally
building.
Here.
I'm not going to get over it. And go home and like take off my shoes, take off my suit, my client facing clothes, and turn into a witch, and do spells and like make tinctures. So the connection to the roots was strong.
Yeah.
But it was also my version of what I came from. Yeah. I definitely didn't want and don't want, like I still live in New York,
Yes.
I didn't move back to a farm. Yeah. It's definitely my version of it, but it really felt like coming out. So I would say the connection to the roots just became more obvious, and I realized how much I had to draw on. And also, that nights and weekends, what I do for myself on the side had been persistent forever. When I was in junior high school, college, my, work in Seattle, I always did that kind of stuff on the nights and the weekends. So I had been sort of self-studying forever, So a lot of my education came in all those years before I went to school for it.
Can you share more? We need to get back to the spells, but for now, can you share more about like a regimen or a beginner regimen? Like if someone wanted to get into herbs and it's piquing their interest and they want to start implementing some things, I'm sure everything is so individualized based off of our individually what we need, but what are some things to get started?
Yeah. So, I think it reminds me of the question that is common about, what's the best book for me to start with? Yeah. And I always answer first with, which area are you most drawn to? And by that, I mean, do you want to learn how to grow your own herbs and garden, with them? Do you want to learn about them from a scientific, health benefit standpoint? Are you interested in your specific traditional, lineage, your regional plants? Are you interested in a different healing system like Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine? So not to be complicated, but even just where to start sort of depends on, where you're most inclined. But then I would find that, and my favorite recommendation is to hook up with some sort of local community, an apothecary, a teacher, anybody in person who can teach you more about plants. And it can be in a casual group setting one time, go on a plant walk with somebody, go to the local herb shop. Most places have one or have, some version of that, and see if there are any kind of classes or gatherings, or, just start hanging out, find somebody that you can connect with. And if you don't have access to doing that in person, then, and I can recommend some specific books, or maybe we put them in the show notes or something like that. But, getting one book and just, let's say once a week, Saturdays, I spend an hour with this book. I learn a little bit more about the plants. In the following week, maybe I go out and buy one, and I make some tea with it, and I see how it feels, what it looks like, how I feel. And just gradually, it's how I learned, one plant at a time, one experience with it at a time. And then, it can go on endlessly from there.
And in those experiences, do you feel a shift immediately? Is it very subtle? I would expect it to be subtle, but would someone feel the impact working with the plant and feeling it initially, or does it take time where they should stick with that plant and see how it feels for them over time?
Yeah, it depends on the plant and it depends on the person. So somebody who is very sensitive might have an immediate relationship with a plant. Sometimes it surprises you, like I made my very first tincture. I just chose mugwort because it's a witchy plant, and I sort of, knew a little bit about it. And I made that tincture, and when it was finished, 6 weeks later, I opened it, and I was just blown away by the scent. I hadn't even tasted it yet. I was like, this smells like eternity. It smells like my future. It smells like, it was so profound. And I didn't have a previous relationship with that plant, and then later that day I walked out of my door in Brooklyn and realized there was mugwort growing, in the sidewalk. It's a common weed here, like right outside my door. And so then I developed more of a relationship with it. And then, other people won't have experiences like that, and they'll just drink, a certain tea long enough to then feel the effects of it. Or just enjoy the experience of drinking tea. If you don't even, you don't have to feel anything necessarily. So,
wow, that's so cool about the mugwort.
You
were guided to that one for a reason. Wow. So, are you drinking that every day?
Am I now? No. No. That was a long time ago.
Okay.
That was a long, long time ago. It was when my apothecary was one shelf in my otherwise empty kitchen, because I had just moved into this apartment by myself, and I had one little jar of one homemade mugwort tincture. And now I have, an entire floor size apothecary full of herbs and all. I mean, it's become a thing.
Wow. Do you have go-tos that you are consuming every single day?
Yeah.
Okay. And then from there, like with things that come up, you're guided to different ones,
yes,
I would assume.
Exactly.
Like based off how you feel.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's different ones for like hormones and immunity and everything, and you can just find it there.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I consume a ton of plants. Yeah. And we're also always learning more about them.
Yeah.
And I really, really like the science of herbalism. So I'm, subscribed to a lot of different journals and newsletters and different, people's work. And there are new studies all the time that reveal different benefits or, understandings about certain plants. And that can, and it's the same with nutritional science and health sciences and, in general. And I do work across all of those. So, you read a new book with new insights and decide to adjust your life accordingly. I love that.
Totally.
So, yeah.
And it's like the constant just learning of new information and what maybe we once thought the benefits were, it can be tenfold as, different studies are held and different lenses are taken.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that you love to learn new things.
Yeah.
Because I think not everyone does. It can be threatening to a self-concept to learn new things. So
I'm
it's a
actually
good
in
quality.
this stage right now where I feel like I know nothing at all, but in like a very interesting way. Like I feel like I've grown so much in my path that it's brought me to the point where like I know so much, but at the same time I know nothing because we're constantly learning.
Yeah.
And what's been truth before may not be truth now, and like the new paradigm we're shifting in. So it's just like this moment of like I'm so open to it all and
That's
to
great.
like unlearning and relearning and continuing that process over and over.
Yeah. That's really great. It reminds me of the idea of being curious.
Yes.
Just perpetually about our experiences.
Yep. And not judging what we once thought and being able to understand and accept ourselves for what we once believed and now moving into like a new truth.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about flower essence. Do you work with that at all?
I know about them. I don't often work with them.
Okay.
I think periodically I have clients who need them or could use them, could benefit from them. And then I'll integrate them. The last time I personally worked with a flower essence was after my dad died in 2020. And my team bought me a flower essence for grief, which was really beautiful. So I think there are certain times and places and also certain people who respond really well to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was drawn to one for abundance. And I started it on a new moon, and I did it for maybe 2 weeks. I don't think the full moon cycle, but it's something that kind of like was popping up for me. And when things pop up into my awareness, like 3 or more times, I'm like, maybe it's time for me to explore that. And that's what guided me to that. But I've heard of like starting it on a new moon. Do you have any preference of like if you are to practice with that, when to start or how to do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's a beautiful way to do it. Yeah. Honestly, I don't typically recommend that. I don't recommend some other start time. I just allow people to start when they're compelled to. But it's, using the moons to start and finish a lot of things can be beneficial.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned spells.
Yeah.
I want to hear more. Like, can you share more? We're like really woo-woo on this podcast. And we love like the more woo, the better.
The more woo, the better.
Yeah.
It's funny. I feel like I've gotten less woo over the recent years, but I also wonder, like, will that swing back? And will I,
Or do you just not think it's woo-woo anymore?
Maybe that too. Maybe that too. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It reminds me of like the early days of wellness in New York City, and just like when everything was new, it was like the first time you could go to a sound bath or go to, a hypnotherapist or all these different things. Like now the hypnotherapist is like my buddy, and we're like, this is not a, special occasion.
Right.
The spells. So the first spells that I did, I was very young. I think I was probably in elementary school at that time. And I was on this path to try to understand truth and God and spirituality and like what is this, life stuff? What is ultimate? And so I was reading, anything I could get my hands on from, religion and spirituality, philosophy and psychology, esoteric anything. And I ended up really in love with Wicca for quite a while.
Can I ask you, what were your other friends doing at this point? Like, were they were they with
great
you at the
question.
library? I just need to know.
No, they definitely weren't.
Okay, I didn't know if like you were in a community where like people were interested
Oh
in
my
this and
gosh,
children were interested in
yeah.
this, because elementary school is really early to be doing this research.
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say like this is me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was born. I mean, my dad used to like pat me on the head and be like, "Isn't that cute? She's looking for, what do you call it, honey?" I'd be like, "Ultimate truth."
Oh my goodness.
Like really, you know, and I'm still on that mission.
I love it. I love it.
So no, I did not have any friends that were. I had a friend in high school. We're still friends now, and she and I were witchy together.
Mm-hmm.
But we found each other, you know, because of that in part, you know, later on. And no, it was really, you know, this factor for me when I was really young, you know, I went like this earlier, and I named, you know, what I kind of consider now to be sort of ether, or we might, you know, we might call it dark matter or energy or all these different things. And when I was a kid, I called it Ness, like the Ness of, you know, the Ness of stuff. I was like, what is this stuff, like this Ness? So like that essence is something that I was so sure. I was like, it's right here, you know, it's like, it's between us, it's right in front of me. I can't see it, touch it, feel it, but I know it's there.
Wow.
And I was like, somebody in the world knows what this is, right?
Wow.
You know? And so it was just a matter of time, I thought, and enough reading that I would, you know, encounter the person who would figure this out. Turns out no one has.
Wow.
You know, it's consciousness, it's whatever,
Yeah.
it's this, it's the woo. And so that's why I was in all these, you know, books and things. And I had supportive parents. So mom's like, oh, okay, you're into this now? Sure, let's go find a book about it. Let's go find, you know, tarot cards and pendulums and like whatever I was into, and also like colored pencils and you know, plant pots and things. But I definitely had a bent toward the esoteric, if that's the way to refer to it. And so yeah, so I spent a good amount of time with Wicca and spells, and I would create things. I would create, you know, potions and burn things. I mean, it's a little hard for me to remember all the stuff, but just out in the backyard, you know, tearing up like flowers.
Where were you getting the flame?
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking about it from a teacher standpoint. I can tell, elementary school teacher. Yeah, I mean, that was mostly at my mom's house, and my dad's house was a farm, you know, so I would make potions with stuff I found in the barns and whatever else.
Just intuitively guided, like as you saw things, you collected them for your potions, and
some from books and some from intuition. So cool. I think when I was younger, you know, it was more of the play of like, oh, I'm just making potions and this and that. And then when I got older, and when I say spells, like I was actually following books, you know, instructions in books. And I did versions of that probably, you know, through junior high. Maybe I stopped at some point in high school, maybe. But also, again, like fast forward to when I'm working in fashion, I am doing moon rituals and moon ceremonies and spells on full and new moons, you know, at home.
Yeah.
So that part of it. And I think, you know, herbalism, I didn't call myself an herbalist for quite a while in my journey. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that it is the most perfect. I don't know if it's entirely perfect, but it's the closest, you know, profession, title, practice to sum up or kind of include all of these different aspects of things. You know, the natural world, that energy, talking about flower essences, also the sort of physical functional health of things, the psychology and habit, the lineages of your region. Like, it's really, there's a lot there, a lot more than just the benefits of herbs. I think later on, when I realized that was the most appropriate name for all this stuff I was doing, that's when I started calling myself an herbalist, and then went and studied more deeply in it. But it was a little bit of a reverse order.
Yeah.
I'm
like obsessing over the little you because I need to know a few more things.
Oh, sure.
So while you were doing this, were you sharing any of it with your friends? Like, I know you mentioned the one friend who connected with it, but like in elementary school, did you have friends? And was this something like you really knew to keep to yourself, or like felt to keep to yourself? Or were you like, guys, I'm doing some powerful shit over here. Like, you got to see this.
I wished that I had like The Craft, right? Was that the film? The Craft? There's like this like clique of witches. I swear it's called The Craft, but I could be wrong.
I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh, I wish I had that. So let's see. When I was in elementary school, I was in a public school, and I've always been a bit of an outcast, or I was definitely an outcast, like through my elementary, junior high, and high school days for different reasons. In elementary school, in this big public school, I didn't feel like I totally fit in. And I had, fun friends, and we had a good time, and, kind of played and caused trouble. I ended up befriending a lot of troublemakers. That was like my type. And but I was also like straight A student. Back then they weren't A's, they were E's.
Yes.
I got one S, and I'll never forget it, because like that was not acceptable in my house. Aww. Anyway, so I didn't really share with them, but I think, I'm trying to put my finger on how to say it exactly. I think, growing up on a farm in a very small town, no stoplight, only girl, 4 brothers. Our family was different than the families that lived in town. I wasn't really allowed to like spend the night at friends' houses very often. Like, my dad kept us a little bit protected from a lot of, the world. And so I spent a ton of time alone, a lot of solitude. And it's still very important to me. And it's also part of my personality. Like, I am a major introvert, love to be quiet. I do retreats by myself. I travel alone. So there were certain things I shared with my friends, but I didn't share everything, and I didn't really share. And I think this is a big part of it. I didn't have people that related with my, obsession to try to understand this stuff. Yeah. Like, how many kids
right
in that environment are like, oh yeah, I get it.
Or
Let's
even
figure this out
together.
Saying,
honestly,
yeah.
Like, to have the consciousness understands.
Yeah. So I didn't really didn't relate, on that level with kids there. And then in junior high, we were sent to a religious school. It was a Christian school for junior high and high school. And I was like the outcast of that school. So I gave it my best go in terms of trying to understand Christianity and, be saved and be on board. I was like, if all of you believe this, and I'm trying to find truth, I'm in. I'll read the Bible. I'll do all the things. And I did all the things, and, and it didn't work for me. And I was literally the only kid in the entire auditorium, like, not standing up and singing and raising my hands during chapel every single week. Not trying to be a brat, just trying to be honest. But like, that was 6 years of my life.
Wow.
So that was intense.
That was hard, I'm sure.
And that was very, and I had my friends there, but I was again kind of this outcast, and the kids were all trying to save me, and the what do you call it? The staff, not the staff, but
teachers,
the teachers,
the faculty.
Faculty were constantly pulling me aside, trying to save me, and it was just So definitely didn't share my, spell interest there. I did meet my friend there, and we had, that special relationship.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I feel like there was one other thing I was going to mention there, but I don't recall. Yeah, so it was something that was mine.
yeah.
It was my own. And then college felt different,
Mm-hmm.
of course, but it just felt like it was my own path and purpose, clearly.
So cool. So
So,
today's a full moon in Libra.
oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I
Are
saw it last
you?
night, but I didn't realize it was full. See, this is me losing touch with my woo. Like I used to know, like every second where it was
I
at.
need to know, are you doing something tonight for it?
Well, no,
No.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. But it's just like I said, it's just kind of the phase that I'm in.
Yeah, totally.
The old me, I've been like, seriously.
What are some things you would do?
Let's see. Well, new moon, I would generally like clean and open. I mean, I would also still clean. So by that I mean like sage,
Yeah.
Palo Santo, sweetgrass, cedar, whatever you have, whatever you're using. Probably not sage, but
Why not sage?
well, white sage is a plant that is now at risk,
Yeah.
and also it is used in spiritual practices by people that are like indigenous people.
Yeah.
So if it's part of their, sorry, I realize
No.
we're not live.
No.
So
Some,
like,
I know, I was asking you because I wanted your opinion on it, but I know some people feel it's a closed practice. And then I have friends who actually get it from a space who are indigenous and they want to share it and they feel like it's ethical. So I just didn't know if there was like, what reason it was that you said on stage. I was interested.
it's both. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, like, to say that again, I would say it's a plant that's at risk, and
Yeah.
unless you're buying it from
Yeah.
somebody or some organization that wants to share it, that it's better to leave it and use whatever you're able to grow yourself or have access to in your specific area. And there are so many good plants that are great for saging, for
what other ones
energetic
did you mention?
cleaning. Cedar is one of my absolute favorites.
Okay.
You can use rosemary. I mean, you can burn so many different dried plants, but sweetgrass is really beautiful too.
Okay.
I kind of joke that I feel like flames are now becoming a theme here, but I sort of joke that like most of the tea that's in tea bags, like you can burn that.
Wow.
Can, some people will smoke different types of plants, of course, and lavender and rose and chamomile and like all these things. So tobacco is common too. That's a beautiful
and
one.
clear.
Yeah, that's a little bit more of an offering
Okay.
than clearing. Any kind of smoke is going to be cleansing, but and even as much as I love Palo Santo, like I don't buy that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just important to be as aware as we can
Totally.
of the state of these plants
Totally.
and the use of them, indigenously. And not everybody knows that, and that's fine. But as you learn more, then you learn things like that, and it's helpful to respect. But yeah, for a full moon, I mean, I would let go of some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, write it down, burn it, or don't. Maybe
Keeping with the theme, we're going to burn it. We're burning tonight.
throw it away, put it in some water. But yeah, close and let go. What
Any
about you?
specific herb?
Oh.
I'll share, but any specific herb for a full moon?
Oh gosh. That's a good question. I don't know if I really would associate a certain herb with the full moon, but maybe, and this is where some of it becomes intuitive.
Yes. Totally. Mm-hmm.
So I would think of, what I'm thinking about now is like the state of the plant. And what I mean by that is that something that is in like a seed form or a leaf is in a different state of development and kind of fullness than something that is a flower or even the fruit that comes afterward. So like just to take that to completion, rose hips are the fruit of the rose that come after the flower. And they're even, a round sort of berry type, fruit. So that would be a perfectly reasonable association to draw and then plant to work with if that resonated with you.
So funny because when you said intuitive, the first thing I thought of for this Libra full moon was rose, and then you used that as the example.
You know what you're doing tonight.
So cool. Yeah, for full moon, I like to let go and clear, but a lot for me as well is like listening intuitively, because some full moons to me feel more like setting intention, getting organized, tidying up, and almost like expansive in manifestation, where like typically you would hear a new moon is more for manifestation and planting seeds, but it's all pretty intuitive to me. But this one, I'm a Libra sun. I don't know if that's why, but this feels like very mild and gentle to me. But from what I understand, it's bringing a lot of healing, and there's an emphasis on relationships. And I did see some of that come up before, but it's all about just like letting whatever come up and then reading and learning about it and then taking what resonates and then leaving the rest.
Yeah, and you add that layer of astrology too, which is, another. There's so many layers.
So many layers.
Yeah.
Even just in astrology, there's so many layers. It's like, oh my goodness. So can you share a little bit about what you do now? If someone was interested and enjoyed the conversation and wants to follow up with you or even hear from you, work with you, what are some things that you offer?
Yeah, definitely. So at this point, a lot of what I do is about education. So I have online classes on our website, and those classes were all developed out of, years and years of private practice and one-on-one sessions with people, and also teaching in groups and hearing these themes and these questions come up. Hormone balance, thyroid health, brain health and energy, stress and anxiety, like these major pillars, metabolism. So all of the online classes were developed out of the teachings that I'd been giving, for years and years. So those are online on demand. You can take them at any point. And then I do a lot of writing, and right now audio only podcast, and that's on Substack. So that's really a Q&A, Ask the Herbalist style, where people can come in and ask their personal health questions, and the community can benefit from my response. So again, I've really been, after working a lot in a one-on-one capacity, trying to open that up and let as many people into the conversation as possible and as reasonable, because sometimes, we need that intimacy too. Yeah. So very occasionally I'll do one-on-one sessions still, but it's not a frequent part of what I do. And then we have an online shop. We had a cafe for many years.
Oh, cool.
But recently moved that online, and that about sums it up.
And what are things they can find on the online shop?
Teas, tinctures. We have gummies. We have herbal gummies.
Cool.
So I try to curate the shop around, again, those main pillars, that the classes represent and the products then support. So
that's so exciting. I'm shopping tonight on the full moon.
That's a good thing to do on the full moon too.
I love this conversation with you. I'm so grateful that you came here today to share your expertise and just your passion and your truth through herbalism, because I can definitely feel it. And I'm just so grateful.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Where can everyone find you?
Everybody can find me at youaresupernatural.com. So that's the letter U, the letter R, supernatural.com. And then I'm Rachelle Robinett on Instagram.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yay. She just gave me the 40 heads up, but I felt like that was I didn't want you to be like, wait, why are they talking to each other?
Oh, no, that's okay.
She just gives me a little cue, but I felt like that was the perfect amount of time and everything you shared. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
Yes. We have the AC on, so we just need to capture 10 seconds
of
silence
sure.
So the others can pull it out. So I'll just go ahead and count down on my fingers and just like quick, just a little silence. Okay. so much.
Yeah,
Hi.
thank you.
So thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.